Did you know that most fatal accidents happen on secondary roads? Find out how to keep your teen safe. Education Today starts now.
Welcome to Education Today. I'm John Zish with the Armstrong School District. This week, we're taking a good look at one of the most important subjects of all, highway safety, as it relates to teens. Every parent is concerned about their child's safety when they first get behind the wheel. And today, we're going to look at not only how the Armstrong School District helps to prepare young people as they head out onto the road, but also highway safety trips from the source, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. We have with us today Mr. Sean Houck, a safety officer from PennDOT District 10. We also have Stacy Kluken, who teaches driver's ed behind the wheel at Ford City High School. On behalf of the school district administration and school board, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Yes. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do?
Hi, I'm Stacy Kluken. I'm driver education teacher behind the wheel at Ford City High School, and I also teach physical education.
Oh.
And I've taught at Aaron Intermediate Unit 28 about 10 years ago, driver education also.
How about you, Mr. Houck?
Well, I've been with the Department of Transportation now for about 6 years. I serve as a safety officer there, and also I've been involved in traffic safety with IUP, in fact, my whole career.
Very good. Well, let's start by talking about, just in your opinion, both of your experiences, what is the importance of promoting safe driving and highway safety among young people?
I feel the promotion should be prevention of fatalities and preventions of any kind of accident, and just letting the students know that they can be a better driver through prevention.
Excellent. Do you have any thoughts along those lines?
Education, education, education. It not only stops at it starts at the high school and can continue, ongoing into the later years when they come from 16 years old into 17 years old, that education must continue at the parent level, at the anybody's that has involvement with that teen, that education needs to continue on throughout their driving career. Can't stop just when they get their driver's license.
And it starts in high school with
Yes.
driver's ed. What exactly do you cover with the students in driver's ed?
In the classroom phase, you have to have at least 30 hours of the classroom phase, and then 6 hours behind the wheel. So I get the students for the 6 hours behind the wheel, and the driver, Mr. Stewart, at our school teaches the classroom phase. And we have a new program that was adopted, and it's partially used, which is called Stop, Think, and Go. Dr. Warsbit and Dr. Hornfeck over at IUP had got this program together, and it touches more on critical thinking. It's difficult to teach, sometimes fun. All the teachers of Armstrong School District and the driver education use this as a resource and uses this as a teaching tool.
Well, Stop, Think, and Go, what exactly is that made up of?
It's a lot of information for our students to think. We need them to understand areas of the driving modes. If they're at a railroad crossing and they see the lights down, are they going to run through the flashing red lights before they cross? Or are they going to wait behind the line and let the train cross? So these are parts of driver education that the teacher might implement. They'll give them a problem, and then they'll have to take the phases through those problems.
Okay.
And it's a serious, they'll take serious problems and they'll work through them. And then we have Drive Right, which was our textbook we just received, so we're updated on information that way. And it's not just, okay, here's your worksheet, but there's a lot of other areas that we can use. And we have a bingo, Drive-O bingo, and I can show you this. So this is something new we just received in June of this past year in 2005. And Drive-O is something fun. A driver education instructor created it, and kids can have fun with it. You know, you can create any game you want from that. They can learn more on their stop signs, you know, every regulation sign, and it's just another teaching tool that all the driver ed instructors have in Armstrong School District.
Is it almost like a trivia?
And you can make it
understand?
like Trivia Pursuit,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
any type of game show you can
Okay.
create from this, not just bingo. Because some kids go, oh, we're playing bingo today, but they're also learning, so they
good.
can have fun with learning.
And how about when you actually get behind the wheel? What sort of things do you instruct them on?
Well, behind the wheel, we have the students fill out a form, and I can show you that the parents have to sign, gives us permission to take them after school. We usually drive each student 1 hour, one observes, and then there's 2 students in the car with you, and we have a checklist of things. So we go through about 6 areas of driving. We start residential, lower speeds, a little harder, work on the steering, hand over hand, push-pull, and those, sometimes push-pull kids don't know, so sometimes if they don't know how to steer, we take them in an open, empty parking lot without any obstructed areas, and we'll take them and work on the figure eights to work on the hand over hand or push-pull method. And when we start a residential area, we work with parallel parking, angle parking, and perpendicular parking first off, so they can have the idea when they go home and practice with their parents. If I give them 1 hour of instruction, they should have 6 to 8 hours in that area with their parents. It doesn't always work because where you live, but they learn all the parking and how to park, and we have some information we'll give you later on parallel parking because parents always have trouble with that.
I still have a hard time with parallel parking. to be
With
honest.
helping their students. And then after the residential, where they'll be in town doing moderate traffic, slower pace, maybe 15 miles an hour too. They'll learn one-way streets, how do you stop, where do you stop. There's like 5 areas. There's the stop signs, stop lines, prior to the crosswalk, prior to the intersecting roadway. If you're in an alley, you stop prior to the crosswalk area. So students have to learn that, and sometimes they don't always get that right away from their parents. So we try to have them behind the wheel as soon as we can with their permits. The next phase we'll go into is open highway. An open highway is 45 to 55 miles an hour, and we make them read the road signs. We do the commentary driving, and that might help that student be more aware of what's going on. They're looking at the road markings, they're looking at the signs, and they're saying, oh, I have a curve up ahead. So they're getting themselves prepared. You know, they're reducing speed. You know, the suggested signs are the yellow signs with black lettering, and they see the arrows, so they know if they have an S curve up ahead. So we try to get them through these phases, and then from open highway, we might take them to a business district. And in Armstrong County, we have a great area to go. We can take them open highway, you can go to Clarion, you could go to Indiana, you can go to Vandergrift. Vandergrift's very tough to drive in because they have a circle area,
Right.
and the kids don't know how to turn left onto the street. So we teach them that. So if they go to Georgia or another state and they have a
Town
turn,
circle.
town
Yeah.
circle, then these kids will be familiar. So Vandergrift, I hope they keep their turns that way in their town. Business district, you know, can they identify which lane to properly go in? Are they going to be alert for reading road signs above as well as markings on the roadway? So these are all areas that we want these students to identify. And when we're out there, you know, it's an hour of instruction, but it does go quickly. We can do maybe 12 miles at the residential. They'll get 8 to 12 miles in when driving in the car. And then open highway, they might get up to 20 to 25 miles driven. And then expressway driving is another, you know, 65 up to 65 miles an hour. So I take my students down to Oakmont,
Yeah.
because Oakmont's just a key area. It's a little business district, and
You get the expressway experience
yeah, and you get
too.
the expressway. And when I do my expressway, they do time distances. They actually have to sight the distance and see how long, if it's going to be a 4-second, which is your stopping, and distance for a vehicle to stop maybe at a traffic light or something, and then 4 seconds is your following distance. So in expressway driving, doing these time distances, like 12 seconds, you're going to sight ahead that far. So you want to make sure that the students know how far to look ahead and see what's coming, you know, and see that they identify the signs. And it's just something they can practice later.
Sure.
You know, when they're with their families. So one thing we'd like to see is, then we do have emergencies, and then we also have.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
actually,
I was going to go
both
into.
of you.
Yeah.
I was going to open this question up to was, can you think of any emergency situations that could come up for a teen driver, and what are the solutions to those? Can either of you think of some
One
scenarios?
of the biggest problems we have is that young people, their first experience with winter driving, and also possibilities of when they get going a little bit too fast on wet roads. And they experience for the first time a hydroplaning type of condition. And their first reaction to a hydroplane can make the difference between a tragedy and basically driving through it, surviving or avoiding a crash. And those are things, again, that a parent can teach or a driver's ed teacher, but until they experience for the very first time on their own and are basically drilled on how to react to that, it can be catastrophic if they're not prepared. So again, the training, the education, the constant reminder at home that, hey, it's raining out today, or we're expecting some freezing rain tonight and so on.
Slow
Monitoring those conditions,
Reduce
reminding the
speed.
teen, buckling up because, hey, there's adverse conditions out there. It could affect your overall driving. Slow down, be careful, bridge freezes before the normal road surface. All them things that we take for granted because we've been driving for so many years, we have to understand that this is their first experience, or maybe their first experience.
You know, when I became a new driver, I had a friend who survived an accident due to hydroplaning, but he described it as he was driving on a highway and it was wet, and his car actually lifted off the road, like the water
Absolutely.
elevated him, and his car flipped. What is the right thing to do for the benefit of our viewers in a hydroplane situation?
The number one thing that causes hydroplaning is underinflated tires. So just reminding or checking your car's tires to make sure they're properly inflated is the number one. This fluctuation of weather we've been having right now with the, basically the cold during the night and warm up during the day, that really will affect the overall pressure in the tires. So checking that air pressure. And speed is the number one contributing factor to hydroplaning. So with wet road type of conditions, we have to remind people just to slow down and to allow a little bit more time in areas where they may see water on the roadway, or even if there's a car in front of them, allowing more distance behind that car and following the tracks of the car in front of you. The white marks that it leaves will help disperse some of that water off the road. There's all.
The other factor affecting hydroplane is early in the morning too, with the condensation. You have the oil dripping off of vehicles as well as the water, so you're creating that film
And
too.
in intersections is more.
And more at
prominent.
intersections.
Right.
So if you're deaccelerating and slamming on your brake to stop at an intersection, then you might have a chance you'll be sliding through it and hydroplaning
That's a good warning.
because of the
Exactly.
oil buildup and the water. So we want to make sure that's why maybe following, maybe a 6 or 8 second following distance, and that might help. In emergencies for driver education, for behind the wheel, I take my students at least 3 modes here that we do off-road wheel recovery. So we pull the wheel on the students, and we make sure that they know that they don't slam on their brakes, but they grab that wheel firmly, make sure they put on the brake, decrease speed, rear view mirror check, and if they're all okay, where that smooth surface, it's a bumpy surface, they want to make sure the surface is smooth to come back on the roadway. Because they pull that wheel, boom, they'll be into a tree, another vehicle, or a ditch.
So you have control. You have the second wheel, I guess?
No, we don't have a
you
second
don't
wheel. I just have a brake on my side.
Well, how do you get them into the berm?
I just pull their wheel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I go and reach over and pull
All right.
their wheel, and then they handle it. Some teachers might be a little stronger at pulling it. Depends on my students' fright. If they're more frightened, I do it a little less, So, and I don't want to ruin my car either, because we have other students to drive. So what we do is we'll have the students do the off-road wheel recovery that way. Then they stall in a turn. Most cars will stall in a turn. So what we'll do is we'll shut the engine off and they react, shift it in neutral, start the car, push it back into drive. But they don't want to depress the lever, so they push the car in reverse or anything. All cars go right into neutral to start and back into drive. That's just a universal thing. Yes. And then we have an e-brake, where a student will go through the process of an emergency. They'll stop with their e-brake. And this is fun for some boys and scary for most girls. They get a little anxious. I just did emergencies last night, and we had them, I usually take mine around Crooked Creek, and what I do is I have them prep themselves. We go through the whole process prior to going down a slight hill, and then I say loss of brake, and they'll tap the floor on the brake like they'd be pushing up the air pressure, trying to get, not air pressure, the brake fluid pressure, if that's the kind of car they would have to do that. Or then they put the car down into first gear, then they go into the e-brake, holding the e-brake, pulling it up, and trying to slow themselves down as they're steering off the road for safety. So, and then they secure their car, and I said, what else do you do in an emergency? Call mom, call dad, or call 911.
That's good.
So
Good
if they don't know, then we at least go through those 3 areas of emergencies when driving for the driver ed behind the wheel.
Well, now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more highway safety tips from Sean Houck right after this commercial. Please stay with us for Armstrong School District's Education Today.
Hello, I'm Bill Kerr, Superintendent of Schools for the Armstrong School District. The theme for American Education Week, A Strong America Begins with Great Public Schools, continues throughout this school year. I see public education as a great investment, an investment in quality educational programs and services that continues to yield countless benefits to strengthen our schools and communities. We're proud that our students did a commendable job on the 2005 state math and reading assessments. Their work, along with those of their teachers, enabled all schools in the Armstrong School District to make adequate yearly progress under the federal No Child Left Behind Act. Congratulations to all involved.
And we're back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. Well, Sean, I would like to turn things over to you now, and I was wondering if you could tell me just some local accident statistics for teen driving.
Well, in Armstrong County in 2004, we had 3 fatalities involving 16 to 17-year-old age group. And when you think about that, in the year past we had 0. Across the state we had 92. And again, that's the 16 to 17-year-old age group. When you think about that, I mean, you say 3 is not that many. It's 1's too many.
I think it is too many.
It's tragedy for the parent, the loss of a future leader. It's catastrophic, and there's things that we can do to prevent that. There really is. And parents have a huge involvement in that, and we all can take part in trying to reduce the number of teen fatalities. It's a very important issue, and people don't realize the consequences of it until it happens to you. And any of these parents that you talk to after a tragedy, they basically said, you know, what could I have done differently? You know, what could I do to have my team back again? It's a loss for everybody. It really is. I hate to see it. In fact, every time I get a coroner's report across my desk, you just get a big lump in your throat to think of the agony of what the family's going through.
Yeah. Well, what were some of the causes of these accidents and maybe possible preventions?
For the most part, it's teens driving too fast, not buckled up properly, improperly buckled up, and in a lot of cases too many teenagers in the car. When you think about, and I hate to limit the amount of teenagers in the car, but parents need to have a role in that. That when you look at behavior, how it changes as you get more teens in the car. In fact, there's studies that show that for every additional passenger you put in the car, it just doubles the chances of that teen being involved in a fatal crash. Wow. And that's pretty alarming. And most teens don't go out and drive by themselves and say, let's see how fast I can go. It's when somebody's in the back seat saying, come on, get her going. Let's see how fast you can go. In Slippery Rock, we had a case where we had 4 teens killed in one car crash. And then, about a month later, there was an additional 2 more killed and 2 seriously injured. So when you look at the statistical data, it's proven that crashes definitely are increased as the number of occupants in the car is increased.
I mean, is there a guideline for parents to adhere to as to the number of occupants that should be in a car for new drivers?
Again, I would judge it on their own teens' behavior. There's different maturity levels for teens. Look at what your teens accomplishing in school and how they're reacting to stress and how they're reacting to just maturing through their teen years. Those types of behaviors, if they're sleeping all the time and they don't seem to be doing well in school, call and talk to other parents. And something that is always mentioned after every fatal crash is that a parent will say, I knew this was going to happen. Or a student would say, I knew this was going to happen based on the way Jonathan was driving. He drove like a maniac. He was speeding all the time. People need to communicate. If law enforcement can't be everywhere, but parents can have a huge role by looking at their teen's car, looking at excessive tire wear. Okay, maybe they're spinning the tires constantly, looking at the number of miles that are driven, looking at who they're basically riding with and where they're going to and what hours they're going to. Just removing or reducing the curfew from midnight to 11 o'clock, years back when we did that. That has saved hundreds of teenagers' lives. And just that 1 hour of the mishaps that went on from 11, or basically from 11 to midnight, has reduced the number of teen fatalities. So there's a lot we can do, and there's more that we can do. But if you're relying on the state to do it all, you're relying on the police to do it all, the local police or the high schools to do it all, we need parents' help. We need parents' buy-ins to say, what kind of car are you going to buy your teen? Are you going to buy them a brand new Camaro that'll do 180 miles an hour?
Or the Mustang.
A Mustang or something like that. Or are you going to buy them something more conservative to say, this is our philosophy? And teens, for the most part, all kids are that way, pretty much mimic the way we drive. If you're a tailgater,
Yes, I can tell
your
you
son
that.
is probably going to be a tailgater.
If they
you're
grab
a speeder,
under.
you can say, my son will look up at my shoulder and say, Dad, you're going 58. You're only allowed to go 55. And I'll say, oh, it's okay. They allow me to drive this fast. And then they're going to do that. They're basically mimics of what we do.
And seatbelt use, too, is often passed
Seatbelt,
down.
exactly. I mean, we've come a long way with seatbelts in that now, the children are required to have one at a very young age. And it seems to be, happening up through the lines of, as they mature, they still wear the seatbelts. But for some reason, when they get to that 16 to 17, where the rebuttal goes on and says, you know what, and they're actually pretty good drivers when they're 16. They may bump into things and have distant judgment and so on, crashes.
Right.
They may run off the road or bump something like that or run into the garage door. But where they really start happening is when they get to the late 16s into the early 17s is when the seatbelt comes off, the seat goes back, they lean back, it's their car now, accelerator goes down, and all common sense goes out the door.
Because they get their license.
They got
at
their
16
license
and a
now.
half, yeah.
So again, the key thing is that parents, again, if you want to save your teen from a tragedy, if you really want to be involved in it, then get out there, be proactive, and tell them you have concerns about their driving. Tell them I'm worried, John, I'm worried about you speeding out there. Look at, this is your second set of tires in 2 weeks. What's going on? Why are you having so many, why are you burning so much fuel? Where are you going to at night? These types of questions, although may not always prevent, but can reduce or maybe stop something from happening.
Yeah. I have parents that have restricted some of the girls. I drive a lot of the girls. And I have parents saying, I'm only allowed one, the student says, once I get my license, one person's allowed in the car for at least 6 or 8 weeks. Right. So that tells me that parent's so concerned about that child that because when I have students driving, there's one other girl in the car, or one other boy, and here, I let them put the radio on, and then the other girls in the back, maybe they're allowed to use their cell phone if they're in the back seat, just maybe calling a friend or something about homework or whatever. But then if they start talking with the other driver, that's going to distract. And I said, look what happened. You forgot what speed this was, or your speed's going up and you're talking faster. Yeah. So I bring those points about when we are driving. So look, this is to prevent you from having too many people in the car, but look what one person in the car can do, let alone 2, 3, or 4.
Right, and that's where you have basically the huge tragedy where you have 4 teens killed, in a crash. which is catastrophic. Anytime you see that, one is bad enough. But again, parents need to be involved. It's not just like that, thank God you got your driver's license. I don't have to haul you around anymore.
Yes, you can hear that all the
And
time.
you often, have a big sigh of relief.
That's not the end right there.
That's not the end. In fact,
Just
the
the
education
beginning.
is just the beginning of the education that's much more needed even beyond what the high school does or what they've done in the 50-hour mandatory training or 6-month
Yeah.
waiting period, which has reduced fatalities. But what we're finding now is it's creeping up with us as they get 17 years old. Speeds go up, the chance or risk-taking goes up. I'm a pretty good driver now, I got everything under control. But still that lack of experience, that lack of driving at high rates of speeds and so on. And on the secondary roads, everybody thinks it may be, it's happening all on the interstate highways.
No.
Most of our fatal crashes are happening on the secondary routes, the routes that people live on. You always hear one more mile, they'd have made it home. But they're anxious, they're used to that road. Basically, they're more relaxed, speeds go up. And as we go out and resurface even the secondary roads, guess what happens to the speeds?
They still continue.
They
to
go
up.
way up.
Yeah.
Smooth surface, they go faster, but still a lot of hit fixed objects are there, trees, utility poles, which a lot of teens that overreact by dropping off the roadway, by going too fast in a turn, and we're no match up for a tree.
I feel like we should say that I feel like here we are, we're these adults preaching to teens. I don't want to make it sound like we're picking on teens.
Absolutely not.
It's just
We're
a lot
here
of
to
concern.
help.
And
We're here.
one of the first places you should go, of course, is to driver's ed. I know we need to get those participation numbers up.
Yes.
At driver's ed.
Yes, behind the wheel. Everyone in Armstrong School District, every sophomore should be having the classroom phase. So that's good. Not all school districts do that in this state. So Armstrong gets a plus on that. Now we have to continue, and maybe we only have 45 to 50% of the students taking behind the wheel. So we have to increase that, because the benefit is, first of all, I give you 6 hours, and I know that we're allowed to give the driver exam.
It's only $35 too, right?
And it's only $35 in Armstrong School District right now. So if the driver educator can give you the exam, I can give them that. And the parallel park they've already done. We have courses here at Katanning, Ford City, and the Dayton area where West Shamokin is. So
Just
we're
get
all
in touch
approved.
with you or
Yeah,
any of the driver instructors at the high school.
at the high schools.
Okay, very
To
good.
sign up.
We definitely would like to see 100% participation in these behind-the-wheel classes. And unfortunately, that's our time for today. But I would like to thank our guest, Mr. Sean Hauk.
Thank you very
from
much.
PennDOT. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stacy Kluken from Ford City. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. I would also like to thank our film crew who did an outstanding job from Katanning High School, led by Mr. Ed Bauer. Nice job as always. Be sure to join us again next week for another look at the Armstrong School District. And if you want more information about what's going on, please check out our website the next time you're surfing the web. Have a great week.
Planning on taking the SATs? Armstrong School District is offering an SAT prep course to the 9th and 10th and 11th grade students. The sessions will concentrate on verbal, math, and writing review. The cost of the classes and textbook is $50. The deadline is February 24th, 2006. The 4 Saturday classes will take place from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. March 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th in the Ford City High School Library, 100 4th Avenue, Ford City. To register, send your name, address, and a $50 check made payable to Armstrong School District to Mrs. Rosemary Valasek, West Shamokin Junior Senior High School, 178 Wolf Drive, Rural Valley, PA 16249. For more information, please call 724-783-7040. Well, that's all that we have for now. I'm Brittany Manson from Ford City High School. Keep watching.